We continue on our study on the church. We use the book by Rick Warren as the basis, and we're on chapter of the church. You were formed for God's family. Part 2. You were formed for God's family. Part 2. Life is all about love. Life is all about love. But I have come to learn in my experience with people with me, that so many of us really do not know how to love. First, from Paul's letter to the church in Galatia, 5 verse 14. Paul said, "For the whole law can be summed up in this one command: love your neighbor as yourself." But if one does not know how to love, how is he or she ought to love the neighbor? When we talk about loving self, we often mean selfishness, self-centeredness. But loving oneself is loving it the kind of love that Jesus demonstrated. There was a time when I myself did not love myself correctly. I was very selfish, self-centered, but I wasn't really loving myself as Jesus would. As Paul said, we ought to love. Paul defined love this way. And let me read a few verses for us from 1 Corinthians 13, beginning in verse 4. After I put on my glasses. I want you to listen carefully to how Paul defined love from God's point of view. Love is patient. Hear that? Love is patient with people. Love is kind to people. Love is not jealous or boastful or proud or rude with people, toward people. Love does not demand its own way. Love is not irritable with people. Now I know we get irritable sometimes, but not as a lifestyle, not as a habit. And it keeps no record of when it has been wronged. It is never glad about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. Love never gives up on people, never loses faith in people, is always hopeful with people, and endures through every circumstance. Now tell me, is that the kind of love you have for yourself? For you see, if you cannot love yourself that way, you definitely cannot love anybody else that way. Liking or disliking is another matter. You see, when we don't like ourselves, sometimes it causes us also not to love ourselves. I remember one of the experiences in my own life about loving myself or not loving myself. Because I could not speak the English language when I first came to this country, I didn't like myself. I did not speak like Daniel Inouye. Those of you who have heard Senator Daniel Inouye know how articulate he is. Neither did I speak like James Earl Jones. You know about Jones. And so I disliked myself. Didn't like myself. And therefore it was hard for me to give it to other people. So those of you who were around me, most of the time when I was mean and irritable with you, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to, I just didn't know how to do it right. Life is all about love. Life is all about love. And so, where do we go from here? Today we will look at what matters most in life. And we have already stated the fact that it is love. According to Paul, it is love. According to the Lord Jesus, it is love. Now surely we cannot come out with something better than what these giants have said. So what matters the most is love. In life is love. And the best use of life is love. Read with me Galatians 5:14 that I read a few moments ago. Ready, begin. The whole law. I don't know whether you ever try to keep the law. You can keep the whole law, or you can love. If you can keep the 10 Commandments completely and correctly, and you love, on the other hand, you're doing the same thing. But we know our chances of keeping the 10 Commandments is next to impossible. But loving, we have a pretty fair chance. If we take what Paul was saying about what love is and work on it. The best use of life is love. And that's because life without love is worthless. Think about that. Life without love is useless. 1 Corinthians 13:3. Love will last forever. 1 Corinthians 13:13. And we will be evaluated by the Lord Himself on love, how we love or how much we love, as found in Matthew 25, verse 40. That's the best use of life is love, and the reason why. Secondly, the best expression of love is time. 1 John 3, verse 18. Would you read that, please? Do you have it? No. I'm sorry. I still don't like myself sometimes. That's when I goof off like that. Dear children, let's not merely say that we love each other. Let us show the truth by our actions. The best expression of love is time. People have asked the questions, and some of us have asked it not long ago. When you go to see the family of somebody who died, what do you say? The best advice I've heard is you don't have to say anything. Being there, meaning time spent with them, may be the best thing you can do. Being there. And you, some of us have experienced this, and it is true. The most important time I spend in loving people. The family ministry, for instance. If you're not familiar with it, these are the small groups that meet once a week, every week. Sometimes it ranges from 4 to 12 to even 20.